All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Crossing Swords. As always, I'm Andrew.
And I'm Jake. That's it, just a normal intro this week.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, you don't do like a big thing anymore like you did when we first started. So every time you're like, yeah, just me, just Jake this week, I'm like, what do you mean? It's the same as every other week.
Sometimes I used to, like, they would come to me, you know, like an apparition.
Did you ever, like, sit down and pre-write
No, I never would
them?
sit down and I mean, I did and I didn't. Like, I'd never sit down and plan it.
But you'd have, like,
but
an idea
sometimes
in
something
your
would
head.
come to me and I'd be like, oh, that'd be good. I'll write that down.
Yeah.
And then, do you know what? Half the time now.
Sometimes, like, just gods were speaking to you like a burning bush. And I'm not talking about.
Do you know
when
what?
you've been
Funnily
out
enough,
the
that's
weekend.
cleared up now.
Yeah.
So that's all right.
A good dose of antibiotics
That's
cleared that right up. That and your chest infection, so 2 for 1.
Honestly, that's how I like it. I like my doctors to just go one pill, knock it all out.
Yeah.
It works well for me.
Venereal disease, chest infection,
Everything. It's
anything
why
really.
I mostly drink like paint thinner. I kind of find it just clears the system.
I mean, all you could do what Donald Trump advises, which is just inject bleach.
Inject bleach. I've tried that.
Really? How did
I
that go?
have the whitest bumhole you have ever seen in your
And
life.
I was
Do you know
asking
what,
about
funny
what
enough,
happened when you injected yourself with bleach, though.
I actually do have a really white bumhole, but because I've got
How
that
do you
skin,
know that?
I've got that skin pigmentation thing.
How do you know that?
I've seen my bumhole.
How?
You've never seen your bum?
The only time I've seen my arsehole that I can ever remember was it you who took a photo of it?
I can't remember, but I was present when a photo of it was taken.
Yeah, that's the only time I can recall actually seeing my bumhole.
I had I mean, it's happened a few times. Like you get like a little nick or a spot or something, and you're like, "What the fuck is that?" And you kind of, you know, you bend over, you angle yourself to have a little look.
I mean, I'm not that flexible. There's far
But
too much in the way.
I do have that.
I'm not just talking about my knob.
I do have that skin pigmentation thing around, and it tends to congregate around
So you've
my
got
nether
an
regions.
albino
No.
nethers.
So my nethers, if we're going to get really technical,
I really
and
want
this is
to.
honestly true.
This, instead of your normal, like, I don't know, monologue at the beginning, this seems to be the new Crossing Swords thing. The first
length of my nethers is
Are we talking about penis?
Yes.
Are we talking about the land?
No, we're talking about penis.
Oh, right, okay.
So the penis itself.
Tell me when.
Whoa,
no way, bro.
About there, you know.
Oh, wow.
That's what I tell people. Do you mean the real figure or what I tell people?
Is that why you're struggling at the moment?
Just no one says it can fit.
Yeah. I bet it can't. It's too big. It's too much for me.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You need a lot of
sorry, you were talking about your length.
So the length is generally pretty tanned.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that it's never seen the sun.
I think most men's penises
it's
are
very
darker
tanned,
than their natural skin tone.
What it is like the
How
landing
tanned are we
strip.
talking from, like, I don't know, you've been out in the sun a bit too long.
Someone who's been living in the Med for a couple of years.
Wow.
You know, a few years.
That's
and has acclimatized. It's very tanned.
So it's a natural tan.
And then I kind of like, then on the balls, it really starts to get, they're like different colours.
Right.
It's like half of it's tanned and it kind of, then some of it's really pale white, like proper albino pale white.
Yeah, you get those people, don't you, that sort of
the skin pigmentation thing.
Yeah.
But mine just tends to be on my...
But that's on your testicles.
On my penis and
on my
bum.
Bro, the more you describe your nethers, the issues with dating make more sense. The huge size of your penis, just to start with.
Yeah.
And I imagine it would throw quite a few women to see skin pigmentation issues on a pair of testicles.
Maybe I shouldn't be advertising it so heavily on my dating profile. Maybe I should hold that back for future.
I disagree. I think we
get it out there early doors.
Yeah, the growing reach we're gaining. And just while we're on that, we got our yearly wrap up from our podcast hosting platform, and we've grown 47% this year, which is massive.
Have you grown 47% this year?
I mean, as a person or financially or what?
You know what I mean.
No, sadly, that's still growing a while.
If anything,
I'm not like you, bro.
If anything goes the other way after a certain age.
Yeah, definitely.
Or I imagine
your balls seem to stretch.
They just sag.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't got that yet. I've still got a young man's pair of testicles. I want to put that out.
Earlobes.
Really?
It always grow. Your ears always grow. So if you get like really old men, massive ears.
I'm now starting to get quite long nose hairs coming out now.
You know what I had in the car on the way here?
What's
and
that?
This is, like, let's be honest, this is way too revealing as a conversation.
Yeah.
I've already gone there, though, so I will continue.
Please.
I felt like a really long, extended ear hair, and I managed to pluck it out just by sort of twisting it around.
I haven't had the ear hair thing yet.
And I was sitting, but as I was sitting there, and as I was fiddling with it, I was like, fucking ear hairs, man. Like, what point
Did
of
it
life
hurt
am
when
I
you
at?
pulled it out?
No, I didn't even know I pulled it out till it came off in my hands,
Oh,
and I was
wow.
like, get rid of that.
Maybe it was just a stranger's
Eat
normal
that.
hair.
No.
Do you know what though? If I found out just right, because it wouldn't shock me that I wouldn't know about it by now. But if you had a thing about eating your own hair, I'd be like, I could believe that.
There's a lot of it. I mean, I would get full very quickly.
No, I wouldn't be shocked you kept it secret. I'd just be like, all right, fair enough.
It's not. The thing is, I don't think I'm very secretive. I think I'm quite open if people ask me. I'm just not very forward.
You are the epitome of one of our friends about important news in his life. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had a friend, and maybe one day I'll get to discuss it with this person on the pod. I'm not going to.
I mean, we've mentioned it before. We have mentioned it before.
We have mentioned it before. But a friend of ours, family member got cancer, and I found out from that family member and not from the friend. And when I asked the friend why they'd never said anything, because at this point the family member was all good, all clear, you know, everything's going fine. I was like, why didn't you say anything? You never asked.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll go that far, but I do sometimes with my...
It would not shock me if I found out, like, someone close to you, like, had and got better from cancer. You just never mentioned it.
Sometimes when I'm, like, going away on, like, a little trip or whatever, sometimes I forget to tell my parents as well.
I can absolutely believe that.
And I'll be like... And they'll be like, "Are you, what?
Are you moving out?"
Like, well, they just accept it at this point that they know that I'm horrendous at this kind of thing. So every now and then, if I remember, I'll be like, "Oh, by the way, I'm going to do a thing this weekend or whatever." But most of the time, I forget.
Yeah, I mean, there's a famous moment I've mentioned a few times on the pod. I remember being in your garden, and I think we were talking to your parents about you going on a holiday or something, and your brother came out. And he was just like, "What's this?" And it was like, "Oh yeah, Jake, I can't think you were going to Switzerland or something."
I did go to Switzerland with, yeah.
And he was like, "When was this decided?" And you were like, "I don't know, quite a while ago." And he was like, and you were like going away in like 2 days' time. And he was just like, "It's fucking ridiculous." And he's right.
But like I said, I'm forthcoming. If you ask me if I'm asked about things,
yeah,
I'm quite forthcoming. I think I don't hide anything.
No, I think that's fair.
But I'm not quick to share information.
No.
And I don't.
I mean, you certainly have been so far on this podcast.
I've shared a lot.
Yeah.
You asked a lot.
And guys, you might be wondering at 7.5 minutes in what you're listening to. And to be honest, we don't really know. We didn't really have a plan for this episode other than just to come on, talk.
Chat.
We've got a few questions.
Catch up.
Yeah, and talking of catching up,
and we've answered them. It's weird that you've got a whole page dedicated to my genitals, but we've covered it. We have covered it, so you can turn over.
Those are my private notes, and you weren't meant to read that.
Yeah, but the drawing's a little off.
Yeah, I've realised I've turned to the wrong page. There we go.
Yes, you did turn to the wrong page. You're distracted.
Yeah, I don't want this to be necessarily a weekly thing, because I don't want it to be wanky. But I think men should do this more often in general. So it'll be something I do from time to time on episodes like this when we haven't really got something to talk about. How are you?
Do you know what? It's a weird thing, but I don't know.
That's fair.
And that's and the part that is, I know we've discussed before my kind of self-diagnosed ADHD.
Yeah.
But where my mind has been kind of, has just been going all over the place at 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I haven't really stopped to look at myself, so I don't know.
That's
how
fair.
I am.
You're sort of in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's just like go, and I don't really know. How are you?
I'm all right. Just tired from working. I've been working more or less full time recently, which has been good and it's funny. My pay this month is the first month where I've had properly full time hours at my current job, and I'm actually going to earn slightly more as a normal member of staff than as I did working as a manager for my previous company. And it just made me laugh. And also, just in general, the last month or so, I've had like good things happen, like get a large contract at work.
Nice.
I'm currently working on a project that might get rolled out across the country, and my store's the only store working on it, so that's quite a big thing. Even though the work itself is quite boring, I feel like I'm doing something that's going to be influential in a small way. So yeah, in general, I'm all right. I mean, I have wobbles, like everyone, but one thing I've been glad about as my workload increases, my body's coping with it, which was one of my issues, because when I took a job before this one, I almost had a breakdown because I just found it so difficult.
You went in too much too soon.
And that's two things. I had 6 months off of work in between jobs, so I was basically doing nothing for 6 months, and then went back into doing a 45-hour work week that was incredibly physical, and I just couldn't. I wasn't capable of it. But I think if I went to do it now, I could do it.
Yeah.
So
You've
I feel good in that
readjusted.
sense, yeah. So yeah, I feel all right. I'm able to put a little bit of money away every month. So yeah, things are
Looking
right
up,
at the moment. Yeah, well, I wouldn't say they're looking up because
but they're not looking down.
no, for me personally, they're looking up, I guess. But in terms of like the wider context of what's going on in the country, it hasn't necessarily improved my position, if that makes sense.
I mean, I was just going for a quick punchy soundbite, but you know,
yeah, I mean,
whatever,
it's
let's get
difficult.
real.
I mean, with everything that is going on at the moment, like, to stay positive is hard. So that's why I'm trying to take the small wins as I get them, if that makes sense.
Yep.
But yeah, I'm doing all right.
Good.
I'm surviving.
Yeah. What about outside of work? You been up to much? You feeling up to much?
Other than this podcast and working and seeing Leanne, not a lot, to be honest. Don't really have the time. And like, the only thing I would say I miss doing is playing football.
Yeah.
But I just don't know where I would fit that in.
This year, I'm glad to have got that fixed back in my life.
Oh, absolutely. It's a great thing because there's a socialising aspect as well as, like, I was so much fitter playing just one game of football a week than I am now.
Do you know what? I'd happily play five-a-side again. It would. The problem is where.
Yeah, it's where, it's with who, the scheduling issues. That was always the biggest thing. I feel
that's
like
why I don't think I'd go back. I wouldn't go back to where we were.
No,
because they were really sneaky about it as well. Like they'd know the game was cancelled. I mean, we played on a Sunday. They'd know the game was cancelled on Friday, and they would wait till we got up there and were like, "Here's our money for our league game tonight." And they're like, "Oh, you haven't got a league game, but we got you a friendly." And it's like, "Oh, well, you can fuck off then, can't you?"
Yeah. And the thing is, they did it deliberately because they hoped that once you were there, you would just accept it.
For the large part, we did, but I would say towards the last year that we were doing it, maybe only 6 to 8 months, we didn't. We turned up, and if it was a friendly, we'd all just go, "All right, let's go home." Waste of a journey.
Yeah.
And I feel quite, as petty as it is, I feel quite pleased that we did that. I feel quite proud that we were like, "No, fuck you and your system. We're not playing to it."
Me too.
Quite rebellious.
And with the scheduling thing, to be honest, I hadn't even thought of that. I meant more like getting the team together. You know what I mean? That was always a ball ache.
But if we only had, I mean, then we were kind of split over 2 teams. If we just had one team, it'd be a little bit.
Yeah, we might have a better chance with getting some of the better players back in.
Yeah, I'm sure we could entice them in from
the
11
only
aside.
Problem is Ash can't join him because, as we know, he's dead to us.
Hell of a commute, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
My mum, where you going? 5-side?
Yeah,
where?
I'll be back
London?
in 2 days. Yeah. Yeah, bless him.
Yeah, but I must admit that's one thing. Do you know what? Football's starting up, because obviously, I kind of fell off the health wagon a bit over Christmas.
That's understandable.
Football's starting up again.
Yeah.
And having the first league game the other week.
How did you get on?
We lost 3-1. Do you know what, though? It was a really good game. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. How did you play?
I played quite well. I was quite pleased with my performance, to be honest.
Good.
I mean, there was one shocking mistake.
Yeah.
But it didn't lead to anything.
That's
I
fair.
literally played it to the opposition. I was like, Jesus, that's bad.
I'm not judging you.
And there was another slightly misplaced pass, but it didn't. It still went to our player, so I'm not counting that as a mistake as such. Just an area of improvement.
Yeah.
No, I was relatively pleased with it, to be honest. I think the guy playing right back. I think the guy that was playing against when I first came on, because I only did a half. I did the second half. He thought that he had the beating of me.
Yeah.
And so he ran at me twice, and both times. Because the first time I thought, I haven't done a slide tackle in a while. I'm going to do a slide tackle. But as he's running towards me, I was like, I don't need to.
No.
And I just nicked the ball off him both times,
Nice.
and it was like, cool. And then he kind of was like, oh, and he kind of went in the middle. But no, it's nice to have the football fixed.
Had him in your back pocket, mate.
I did have him in his back pocket, to be honest.
Yeah.
But he really, like the first couple of minutes, he really thought he had the beating of me. And it was just
Yeah.
like, mate, you're going to have a lot better ball control to get.
Well, the thing is, he did the right thing, didn't he? He's taking it to you, seeing how good you are, basically. And then it's the unfortunate situation. He's like, damn it.
Yeah, I mean, literally, I think he did 2 runs against me and then sort of moved more central.
Yeah.
But because no one else came and took his place, I was like, I'm going to follow you, bro.
Yeah.
So you're going to go, I'll come in with you. That's fine.
Mm.
Until someone comes out and replaces you.
Yeah. Any of our friends playing in your team?
Yeah, a few.
Who we
A
got?
few. You got Tony.
Okay.
You got Dave.
Nice.
You got Alan. You got Dougal.
Oh, nice. You've got quite a few of the gang there.
Yeah.
Oh,
A
brilliant.
little one sometimes.
Nice. Who's the best out of them lot? Come on. I'd have my opinion based off of my knowledge of them as footballers, which is fairly.
It's a tough call, to be honest. I think Tony. So there's this new guy that's come in, Sam.
I mean,
plays,
of our mates,
but he plays centre half with Tony.
Yeah,
they've built up a really good understanding.
Okay.
But obviously, I wouldn't necessarily judge that as an individual performance. They just have They have a good understanding. Dave plays a lot
defensive partnership.
Dave plays a lot for a forward, and he doesn't get much of the ball.
Okay.
It's a bit hard. Again, it's a bit hard to judge.
Which is difficult because knowing Dave as I do, he likes to have the ball at his feet and.
Duke plays in goal, doesn't have much to do other than pick it out the net sometimes.
Yeah.
And then Alan. To be honest, Alan frequently gets man of the match votes, and
I'm not
with good reason.
I was gonna say, to be honest, out of my knowledge of them, just based off of technical ability, I would have probably said Alan.
As much as anything, as well, like there is a technical ability,
and he works.
But it's as much as anything, it's an attitude thing.
Mm.
He's positive. He attacks the game. He takes the game. He wants to. I'm not saying the others don't, but he embodies that.
No, absolutely.
Do you know what I mean?
And I would give Alan a shout out.
And he has got that technical ability as well.
For multiple reasons. One,
scored on Sunday.
Doesn't shock me. I'd like to give him a shout out just quickly while we're on him, just because for one reason, he's a religious listener. The other reason I've known him for a long time, but the other one is because you are right, he's a really positive person.
Yeah.
And he's a particular. I remember being on one of the stag do's we went on in the last not few years, but the ones we've been on.
I missed those.
And I think it must have been Tony's. I think. It was when we went to Cardiff.
Yeah, Tony.
Yeah. And I despise clubbing. Like, the idea of going clubbing now is just horrific.
Every 6 months, I have a few drinks. I'm like, fucking go clubbing, man. Let's go for a dance. And then I get in there, and within 5 minutes, I'm in the smoking area going, I fucking hate this. What am I doing here?
It's awful.
Why am I here?
But I remember there was a few of us stood by the booth we had, all just miserable. And he came over and he was just like, you lot should be ashamed of yourselves. And I remember what do you mean? And he was like, this is a fucking stag do. We have a good time. And I was like, oh. And he was like, no, down a fucking drink and get on the fucking dance floor. And I remember just being like, no, he's fucking right. And I went and got a drink, downed it, and went and had a fucking good time.
Yeah, we did. It was a good. It was good.
But Alan's like that in general. He's just up for a good time, very positive, and yeah, good.
Although quite worrying, he drove me home a few weeks ago. But
what happened, Jake?
Well, no, during the game he fucked his shoulder.
Show me where he touched you.
And he was in so much pain, and he really struggled. And I was like,
do you want me to drive?
I don't know if I want to get in the car. Because as he pulled away, he's just starting to turn to come out of the parking space. He's like, fuck.
Yeah.
And I could see it on his face, and I was like, bro, do you want me to drive? And he's like, no, I'll make it. And then afterwards he admitted, he was like, bro, it's a fucking struggle.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I saw.
Is he recovered now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably be a while before I get back in there. I want to put him for a medical before I get in the car again.
Yeah. I mean, coming from you, that's rich, because you did fall asleep at the wheel once.
For a second.
Mate, everyone else except for me was asleep in the car.
Yeah, me too.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. I just remember watching the car veering on the motorway, and I was just like, this is odd, he's straddling 2 lanes. And I was just like, you right there, mate? And you went, yeah, I'm all right. I just pulled back over. And it was only a couple of months later where you were like, yeah, I'd nodded.
You know what, that's great. I love carpooling with Al as well. Not only because I get on really well with him and he's great to talk to, but also because we both have similar taste in music for some stuff.
Yeah.
So we can just put on some fucking tunes and just go for it.
Yeah, he's a good egg that way.
Thank you for starting us. Thank you for kicking things off.
That's all right, mate. Have you got anything you'd like to talk about?
I've got a few things. First of all, I can't remember whether we discussed it before. Stop me if we have.
I'll never stop you.
Did I tell you about my favourite story of the year, the walrus in Scarborough?
I don't believe you have.
Oh, fantastic. I know we've only so far in 2023, we've only done the one with Alex. And I couldn't remember whether I mentioned it before.
No, I don't.
Absolute highlight of the year. It's only January, but it's going to be very hard to beat, I think.
Right. What's this walrus been up to?
So this walrus is sort of making its way up the coast. It was in Scarborough
for any
over the New Year
reason, or just
no one knows. No one knows.
Oh, so he's going against. Why was it? So he started
doing his
off
own thing.
He started off in Scarborough.
Do
they normally appear in Scarborough?
No. So it's a pretty big deal. And it was over on New Year's Eve. So they decided quite last minute. They went, for the animals' welfare, we're cancelling the fireworks.
Right.
In the
So I don't
town.
want to scare it.
Absolutely. New Year's Day. So we're really early
Yeah.
in terms of 2023. And I'll tell you, this is going to be hard to beat. I'm bigging it up.
You
But
really
it's
are.
worth
I
it.
don't know where this is going.
So early morning, people are like, oh, should we go, let's go and fucking see the walrus.
Yeah.
It's packed because, like, honestly, everyone's had the same idea. Take pictures, film it. And the walrus had a wank. Full on, flipper on, up and down. It was brilliant.
And haven't they got like the second biggest penis out of all mammals or something? Or
Can't
the
speak for
biggest
that
or
one, I
something
don't
like
know.
that?
But it was
I remember
just,
hearing it in 50
it was
First Dates or
fantastic.
something.
It was like a crowd. I mean, they'd made him comfortable. They'd
Were there
cancelled the
children
fireworks. Yeah. Like, let's go and see the
And where
walrus.
was it
Let's
when
go
you
and see the
decided to
walrus.
wank off?
Just on the beach.
Where?
In Scarborough.
In Scarborough.
In Scarborough.
Right.
Just had a wank and then naffed off the next day. Swam
Right.
further
I
up the
don't know what I
coast.
misunderstood at the beginning. For some reason, I thought he was on some sort of journey.
Well, no, he's gone up he's gone further up. He's gone up into Scotland.
All right, fair enough.
And the thing is, I can safely say that it is a he.
Well, yeah.
You
'cause
know, I know that.
Yeah, from what I heard
The
in
clues-
50 First Dates, they have large penises.
The clues are there. But just full on, kids turn up, everyone's there, New Year's Day, like, let's go see the walrus, this will be fun. Had a wank. Knocked
Yeah.
one out. Absolutely loved it.
To an audience as well.
To an audience.
Yeah.
He thought, they'll enjoy this.
You do that. If that's the walrus version of you, isn't it?
If they cancelled the fireworks for me, yeah, I might treat him to
Oh,
a
they need
show.
a show.
I might think, you know what? They've made this lovely and comfortable for me. I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
But I think, for me, that jumped straight to the top of my list of stories of the year.
It'll be hard
Because
to
they were
beat.
so accommodating to this walrus.
What
it
did
just-
the
it
people
just-
do? Did they like turn around? Did they?
Well,
Dissipate.
some of them just carried on filming it. You know, we're like,
At what point
TikTok
does that
virality,
become
here we go.
Weird.
Depends how long you make eye contact. I've never made eye contact with a wanking walrus,
but
so I
like,
don't. It's got
is
some
it-
nice
Is it
alliteration.
not weird? Like, I get going there to film the war, and they don't know he's going to start wanking. I get that.
Be weird if you did, wouldn't you?
But once he starts, wouldn't you stop filming? Or are you only interested in the
I
gram?
think you think about the gram, think about the TikTok virality of it all.
I
and
just,
you
I
think, go for
feel
it.
like once he started, the initial shock factor, you might go, oh my God. And then I'd probably go, all right, maybe
Would
not.
you corral the crowd? Like, come on, guys, give him some
No,
peace.
I would just I wouldn't judge anyone else for staying, but just for me.
Under your breath, being like, perverts.
We don't kink shame, bro. Although that's getting dangerously close to bestiality, so, you know.
It's
so-
right on the edge of what we do and don't do.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing it to himself of his own volition.
If someone went down and helped,
yeah,
a line has been
then we have a
crossed.
problem. Yeah. Oh, dear. No, that is a good story. I like it.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Have you got anything to discuss?
I don't know how to follow on from that. You might have to pad for a second. Have you been paying any attention to the Harry and Meghan stuff going on?
Oh, I had this. I was going to say, are you going to read Harry's book?
No, I'm not going to read. I watched the
interview.
I put in air quotes docu-series. I would just call it a series.
Oh, the Netflix thing.
Yeah, I watched that. Which, to be
Do
honest,
you know why his book's called Spare?
because air in the spare. He's the spare in the air in the spare.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know.
You've never heard that phrase?
Nope.
So, like, it's quite common if you're in a
No,
position.
I get
if you're
it.
in a position of power, you
No,
have an air, you
I
have a
get
spare.
it.
And apparently,
Get
it's
it.
famously what Philip said to Charles. Make sure you have an air in his, because he didn't want to marry Diana, wanted to be with Camilla, and part of it was like, no, you need an air and a spare, and then
And then
you
do
know,
what you
have
want.
her on the side.
Oh, no. I mean, the saying makes total sense. I've just
Yeah.
never heard of it.
Yeah. No, fair enough. Oh wow, you have quite a good general knowledge.
I'll tell you what. It did make
Are
me
you
laugh
going to
at-
read this
at
book?
work. Absolutely not. I mean, and I've said this before, I couldn't give less of a fuck about the Royals.
No,
They just don't interest me at all.
no, that's fair.
What baffles me is why so many people are interested by them, as if there's this some kind of like special thing about them.
I
They're
think
just a
that's quite
weird family that
I think
happens
it's
to be in the
quite
spotlight.
A
It's
simple
just
answer. I think they're so ingrained in our society, and I think we do have an entrenched class system, and they are at the very tip top of it. And I think there's always a fascination, as we see with celebrity culture in general, and I think we're just seeing that on a very heightened.
yeah, and obviously we
distilled
like what we're
level.
told to like. You know, if it's put in
Well,
our faces.
definitely, I
we
think that will
but I
help
think
as well.
I-
But
I-
I think the amount of attention it gets from the media is driven by the amount of
of pushback they give to the
interest.
media.
Yeah.
No, but I genuinely couldn't give less of a shit about them all.
Yeah.
So I'm not that asked about it.
I wouldn't say I'm obsessed with the Raws. I've been interested in the attitude towards Meghan. And I think I've said on the podcast a few times, it seemed very obvious to me as to why Harry pulled away, has done the things he's done. And that's to protect his family, protect his wife, protect his kids. And just watching the documentary series just felt like that it confirmed that, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
And like, I don't know what the answer is as to why, because they show in the series there's, for quite a while, she's really popular and it's going really well, and just overnight, for no reason whatsoever, it just changed. And the sort of what they hint at is that either Kate and William themselves or their team didn't like how popular they were. There's rumours that Kate and William's marriage was under stress, so they needed another story. Plus, you then throw Prince Andrew into it, and you need something else for them to focus on, which feels all plausible to me.
I mean, that's another thing. I mean, like, I guess that says how can you support a thing that actively protects a fucking nonce?
I know.
What is that about?
I can't give
it's
you
indefensible.
No, yeah, 100%. I can't answer that. Can I?
Can you imagine this PR team going, "Don't worry, boys. Harry's marrying a black one. We're all right. We're saved."
Yeah.
Which one, Harry? The ginger one. You know, the one who dressed as a fucking Nazi.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's married, and she's American.
Have you heard any?
that?
Have you heard any of the stuff he said in his book?
I heard. Well, I did watch a video online of James O'Brien. That's so often we talk about James O'Brien, and I want to give a shout out to Nick Ferrari, by the way, who did shut down a.
I saw you singing his praises on Twitter.
Yeah,
I've gone off of him in recent.
I had gone off him completely, but I can't remember. I think it was Grant Shapps, and he was saying, he was like blaming X. Oh no, he was like, you know, there's this going on, and that's why the public thing. He went, no, it's because they don't like you.
Yeah.
And he went, no. It's like, well, no. He's like, come on, like, let's call a spade a spade. You're a hated party.
Yeah.
And he was like, no. And I was like, fucking finally woken up and started saying something. He's got a bit of bite to him. No, but I watched James O'Brien because in the wake of the whole Taliban thing, killing the 25 Taliban.
Yeah.
And this number is well known to, I think, most people listening to this, whether they know it or not, they probably heard
I've got to be
number.
honest, I'd never heard it. I didn't know he'd killed people.
No, but I'm just based on the story that's come out in the last week.
Yeah.
We all know that number, right?
Yeah.
Well, I listened to James O'Brien reading the extract from the book. And so the headline is like, killed 25 Taliban, really disrespectful to them, to the war and whatever. But actually, in the context of the book, it's not that disrespectful. He kind of talks about, he says that whole war was a mess, that there was too much civilian casualties. And he says that for a lot of the ground foot soldiers, he says they don't have the data because they're just opening fire. They might hit civilians, they might hit the Taliban, the enemy, they don't know.
Yeah.
He says, but for me, with what I was doing, it's all on paper, it's all very well recorded. And he talks about...
Well, he was an Apache pilot,
and he said,
wasn't he?
yeah, and he talks about how he says that one of the things he really wanted to do was come home with a conscience knowing that he hadn't taken any lives that he wasn't, you know, that weren't the enemy, so to speak of. And he talks about this dissociation because he says, you know, you kind of stop seeing them as people because you can't kill someone you see as a person. No. And he talks about this whole thing, and it's just in the context that he mentions, oh, my numbers are really well recorded. I know you're all asking what it is. Yeah. It's 25. And then he talks about this. And when you see it in the context of it, you're like, yeah, he's not... It's not braggy. It's not a braggy. It's not a boast. And it's not something that's not accessible knowledge anyway.
No.
And I did kind of think, yeah, that the headlines that I've seen have been a bit exaggerated and unfair. Because, and I realise that's what headlines are. That you take something out of context and you just go, bang, run with that. That will sell. I do appreciate that. But so I saw that.
I think it's incredibly disingenuous. I think it's quite obvious what they want to do. I think it's a real shame. I don't think any of this needed to happen. One thing that I keep hearing is that it's disrespectful that they're selling their story.
Yeah, and I hear a lot of... Do you know the one thing I get from a lot of people who are... I think this is a bold claim to make, but I'll make it anyway. A lot of people who say that they're not on one side or the other, but...
They shouldn't be selling their story.
But, well, it's not that they shouldn't be selling the story. They go, but they left because they don't want the limelight, and then they're everywhere giving the limelight. So, what is it really?
Yeah.
And I kind of understand that. I'm not saying I agree with it.
I understand the logic.
But I do
behind
understand it. But I think, as I sort of cut in with someone at work the other day who was saying it, and I kind of said, well, with all due respect, you and I, well, maybe you and I don't, but I was like, thing is, they're going to get the limelight whether they ask for it or not. They're going to get stories printed about them.
Yeah.
So them going around and doing interviews and stuff, at the end of the day, it's just them controlling their narrative. But the number of, like you said, because of the stuff with Prince Andrew and because of all that stuff, the number of stories about them are not going to lessen.
No.
And because they've given the middle finger to the media, they're going after them with a passion.
And
so whether they're in the public, whether they release books or documents, documentaries, or whether they just shut up and do, because then everyone will go, well, yeah, they're shut. We'll still see the stories.
Yeah.
There will still be a heap of stories about them.
Yeah, and they'll always be trying to spin one narrative as well.
Yeah. So I do kind of, but I do understand the whole thing of.
Oh no, I completely agree. My other angle to it was that they have completely withdrawn themselves financially from that institution. He can't go and do a normal job. She can't really go back into being an actress again, really. Maybe she could in the future. I don't think she would want to. So you have to sell, you have to make money somehow. They can never go anywhere without security ever again. That's not going to be cheap. They can't live in an average area. They've got to live somewhere high value and live a certain lifestyle because of who he is fundamentally.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Meghan, Kate, Camilla, shag, marry, kill.
Do you know, it's funny you mentioned shag, marry, kill. I've actually written some down.
Have you?
I have. And the only reason I did that was like as an emergency.
Just in case we run out of.
But what's hilarious is I didn't pick any women because I remember when we've done it before, you were like, oh, this might be a bit sexist. Two men just sitting here ranking women.
That's because I'm very forward and progressive and woke liberal.
So shag, marry, kill.
I forgot. Is that what I asked? Yeah, that's what
Camilla's gone. I mean, it's not a difficult choice.
Do you want to be her tampon?
I know she's hot. No, not even a little bit. But look, again, I'm not kink shaming. What our king gets up to in his private time, as long as it's all above board.
It's not. Do you know what? It's not that he's dirty talking. It was just the sheer lack of quality in it. I think for me.
Yeah, but what do you expect from someone with his background?
There's always a bit of cringe.
He's
to
not
dirty
lived on
talk.
the streets.
Let's be fair. You take it out of context. There's always a bit of cringe.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of cringe, and then there's I wish I was your tampon so I could be inside you.
The thing is, it's difficult to explain how
you would feel, how you want to be a tampon. It's very difficult to
how the stuff. I don't go to that level. My voice cracked then. That sounded quite bad.
Yeah, but you're about to. Someone's got some secrets.
No, but I don't think you'd be able to guess how cringy I get with.
No, I would.
Leanne.
I've seen it. Sometimes a couple of times you've accidentally text me instead.
Yeah.
And I'm like, bro. I remember being in the room with you actually with Ash, and you just sort of you didn't show us, but you sort of had it so we could see, and we were like, bro, that is some mushy ass shit.
So yeah, but that sort of, I don't know what.
Yeah, but you never said you wanted to be a
like.
fucking tampon.
No, I haven't ever said that. I can promise you that.
I wish I was your anal bead so I could help you cheat at chess.
Is that what you use?
Do you not remember that story from last year?
Of course, I remember that story. The chess player.
Thank God. I don't even know how you do that. I don't even know how that. How a vibration makes you know where to. So you hover it
Maybe
over the
Morse
pieces.
code?
I don't know. Yeah, imagine having to learn Morse code just so you could put a butt plug in. What kind of level to this is there?
It through your anal glands. Do you know what I mean? Like having to feel it from down.
Yeah.
I don't know. You've got to have a very sensitive anal region, I feel.
And I imagine you've got to have a relatively advanced
AI.
anal bead.
Yeah.
I don't imagine your basic vibrating anal beads will do that.
Well, you can get sex toys that you can control.
On your phone.
So I guess if there's someone sat there with a computer that's reading them the answers, you just
imagine if you could hook it up so you could feed a chess AI into the app.
But also, how used to it? How used to having anal beads do you need to be able to be fine with sitting there and it constantly vibrating and give off no tells whatsoever? That's why I didn't believe the story, because I don't know how you could actually pull that off.
The thing is, I think for me, I'd probably forget I had them in, and every time it vibrated, I'd be like, "Whoa!"
I've never had anything up my arse, so I don't know how.
Oh no, I mean, no. This is all hypothetical. I've never.
But I don't know if you just forget you have anal beads in.
I have done. I mean, I imagine I could have done. I feel like you're pretty aware.
I'd like to think so. But at the same time, the fact I don't think it's true, the fact it's so ridiculous that someone would even think it's possible makes me think
I'm willing
have
to run with it. Yeah, I'm willing to run with it.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry. Sidetrack.
What were we talking about?
Genuinely can't remember. You were going to kill Camilla.
Camilla's dead.
Sorry,
gone. Queenie. Queen consort. She's
Mom.
Gone. I'd shag Kate.
Marry Meghan.
Yeah.
I think I'd do it that way too.
I don't know if I could be married to Kate.
Kate, I feel like she's too middle class. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's nothing. I'm not putting her down or anything. She still seems lovely
like
enough.
A nice enough lady,
but
very
beautiful.
Beautiful.
At least I kind of know Meghan has come from sort of relatively.
She's got a diverse background.
Similar background to myself. Like, there's a kind of working class element to it.
Yeah.
So I feel like we'd have a lot more in common and like experiences.
And
that
also,
we
she
could
seems
talk
a
about
bit more fun, just from what I've seen in terms of like.
I mean, when she was like
taking
the piss out of herself for the bow.
Yeah.
And stuff. It'd be like, yeah, I'd do that because I'd never bow.
And that's the thing. Me and you, we watch that clip and we see someone taking the piss out of themselves.
Yeah.
But the world sees it as someone mocking. Like, how was that mocking the Queen?
I mean, there's like a million jokes you could make about the Queen. Even more now she's dead. That's not the one you'd go with, is it?
Do you know, it's so funny. One of my favourite podcasts I listened to, literally like 2 days after she'd passed, they released an episode on Patreon. So it's just Patreon members can see it. It's not public. They spent half of that episode
just roasting the Queen.
And I found it equal parts.
How long was
hilarious. The episode? An hour and a half.
See, that's interesting because I bet the crematorium didn't take that long to roast her.
Jesus.
No, it's fine. The mourning period has ended. Do you see? Yeah, the mourning period has ended.
Like, where is it?
I don't know. Have you not got something about the dead Queen? King. I'll allow it that time because I did mug her off.
Yeah,
Fair
I just
enough.
felt like it was appropriate after
if someone has a song
making a dead Queen joke.
I will allow it.
I found it equal parts hilarious and really uncomfortable, and I was aware of the fact my uncomfortability with it was out of an ingrained like reverence.
Interesting, yeah, because there was a lot of jokes flying around after that. Didn't bother me at all, but then I'm not that bothered about the monarchy.
No, absolutely. And then, but the thing was, it was why ultimately I think I ended up finding it funny because I was aware of why
yourself
I didn't
as well.
like
Of like,
it. Yeah,
oh God,
like, this is just silly that I find this a problem. Because if it was any other famous figure, I'd be completely on board with it. So,
yep, cool.
Right, who would you? Or
I'd do it the same way.
Yeah,
I would
kill
do it the same
Camilla, shag Kate, and yeah.
Yeah,
Marry
I mean,
Meghan.
Camilla has parties with like fucking Jeremy Clarkson and
Those
those
are
kind
not
of
the
people.
sort of parties
yeah,
I
not the
wanna
kind
be
of
at.
people I want to be knocking with.
I mean, maybe before what happened with we've not talked about that. That's not even on my list.
Jeremy Clarkson being mugged off by his own daughter.
Yeah. I mean, what did you think about what he said? Because it was really...
It was horrendous. I can't believe that an editor had okayed it.
Yeah.
Like, it's genuinely shocking.
I can't imagine thinking in myself it was okay to say that publicly.
No.
Like, it's one thing him hating her behind closed doors, but to actually put those words to print, and I'm not going to repeat any of them because I just thought it was... There's a weirdly, like, perverse sexual aspect to it in a sense.
And then the worst thing is in classical sort of middle-aged white man who feels a real sense of entitlement...
Didn't apologise.
He apologised without apologising.
Yeah.
He was like, well, sorry you didn't get my sense of humour. And it's like, yeah, really well read.
Yeah.
Really well read, Jezza.
But yeah, sadly, it's proper ruined watching anything he's in for me now. And I know we've talked about...
Art and artists.
But it's difficult because that's...
Art is his personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, trying to go back and watch an old Top Gear special is a bit more... I don't know if I could do it now.
Yeah.
Which is a shame.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Disgusting.
Right, let's see if there's anything else on my
Please
little
do.
list. Okay, one thing I did want to discuss, because it kind of happened and I can't remember if we talked about it. I don't think we did, but the kind of Andrew Tate Pizzagate. First of all, the fact that it just started out as him getting fucking owned by Greta Thunberg.
Yeah,
and I mean,
he didn't do well in
owned.
that exchange at all.
Own. He randomly tweeted a teenage girl
Yeah.
to say, "I have lots of cars. Fuck the environment." And she replied, or he was like, "Give me your email." He randomly tweeted a fucking teenager to ask for her email address, and she replied by saying like, "Oh yeah, it's smallDickEnergy@getalife.com or whatever."
Yeah.
And his response was to wait like 12 hours and fucking film a video. In which case he doxed himself, gave away his location, and allowed the police, who were already under investigation. He was already under investigation.
Apparently, they were aware he was in the country already.
But it confirmed his location.
Yeah,
because obviously, like, there's only one pizza joint like that that's in that vicinity. Yeah, 'cause someone handed him some pizza boxes. That's why it's Pizzagate. But then,
I mean, I don't know
all the stuff that's come out about him pimping, essentially, holding people ransom, raping. Apparently, there's a story that broke recently about in the UK that a woman filed a police report against him for rape.
Yeah,
and there's texts of that he sent her when she'd confronted him about it afterwards in a text exchange, and he'd used the words, and I'm quoting here, "I love raping you." And the police in the UK dismissed it, saying there wasn't enough evidence. So it actually didn't progress.
I'm not like, this obviously isn't funny. Just the
You're not. It's the state of police. It's the ridiculousness. But the Romanian police, they've got him on remand for 30 days, denied his bail. But yeah, the stories about his whole forcing women to perform on camera and stuff. What do you make of the whole Andrew Tate thing?
Thing is, it's difficult. There's so much out there.
And the Matrix thing. The Matrix. Are you aware of this?
The thing is, I've watched him on podcasts before, as you know.
Yeah.
Because I've always found him a outlandish, ridiculous figure who occasionally came out with something that would sound sensible, but as you would always say to me, a broken clock is right twice a day. But I found it interesting in the sense I wanted to see what everyone else found interesting, and I think there's definitely a conversation to be had, not about him, but the fact young boys and men are looking for something.
Well, there was a school in the immediate aftermath of this arrest and whatever. There was a school somewhere, I think it's in Gloucestershire, but I honestly don't quote me on that. It was in the UK somewhere.
Yeah.
That sent a message to parents saying, if your children are found to be supporting Andrew Tate, i.e., if we discover that they're discussing his ideologies, if you like, his teaching in a positive way, or if we see any kind of support for him from the students, they will be suspended. Like, we will be taking disciplinary action because his views do not line up. His views and his actions, and we don't think are healthy.
I understand the sentiment. I just think that sort of action, particularly against children or teenagers, is a mistake.
Has the negative effect. Has the opposite effect. Drives them to him.
Well, yeah, quite. The problem is they're not addressing the issue that these young boys and men are looking for something, and instead of punishing them for falling for what if he's accused of being and doing is true, they shouldn't be listening to him.
Do you
He's
think,
a despicable human being.
Going off this, sorry.
The reaction to that shouldn't be to punish the kids that have fallen for this act. It should be to educate them.
But do you think that there's a gap right now for young men?
Yeah, I do.
For a role model, for a kind of...
I do. I think particularly...
something to latch onto.
There's definite... The problem is...
And what did we have growing up? Was there anything that we had that these kids don't, where Andrew Tate's filling that role?
No, I think when... I remember being younger that, you had to be masculine, I guess, is the easiest way to describe it in terms of, not crying, being quite brutal, aggressive, those things always felt quite prevalent when I was younger and we were younger. There was never any talk of mental health throughout my childhood or teen years. It just was never a thing.
But there's this thing.
The problem is there are masculine young men who need masculine role models.
But I do feel like, even when we were growing up, women were seen as conquests. So there was definitely
100%.
a demeaning of them.
100%.
But I feel like it's taken that kind of demeaning aspect. I feel like it's taken up another notch. Like it's kicked fully into misogyny now.
Yeah,
in large swathes, not with everyone, obviously, but with a large group of young people, it's kind of kicked the door down, and now they're fully like women are object. Women are possessions.
I think it's part of it is not a repercussion, but like a ripple effect of
bloody Brexit, isn't it?
Not Brexit.
Bloody Brexit.
Of pushing to be a more equal society in general.
Yeah, I do think every time you push one way, you get a kickback, but I don't know if that explains it.
We've definitely discussed on this podcast how certain masculine traits have been turned into a toxic thing. And I don't think... It's a delicate line to walk because there are definitely aspects to being men that needs to be curtailed and needs to be sorted out because en masse men rape and murder and sexual assault more than anyone else. We are the more dangerous sex in most regards.
Such a, in terms of the whole trans debate at the moment, which generally tends to focus on trans women and the toilet debate of like, I don't want some. It's like, bro, men are not medically transitioning or even socially transitioning, so they can rape you. They will just rape you.
Yeah.
Like that has never stopped them.
No.
If they want to attack you, they will walk into the toilets and attack you. That's what they do.
I think the problem is, part of it is there aren't many role models out there that I don't know many particular.
I feel like we're the only ones flying the flag here.
What, proper masculine?
Masculine role models.
The thing is, it's such
Look at this. Look on cam. Go on YouTube. Look at this arm hair. See this? That is masculinity, right?
And
there.
if you look
just
around
look
the neckline,
look at this.
Yeah.
That is masculinity.
That is. If there's one word I think of,
it's masculine.
When it comes to you, yeah, absolutely. It's really difficult. I don't know what the answer is for young men. I know certain male.
I mean, how much of it is their responsibility?
What young men?
Because obviously, look, at a point, obviously, we do have to take responsibility for our own actions and beliefs.
If you were to ask me what's the main reason why I'm not a complete arsehole now, and why a lot of those male aspects,
someone's imposing certain views on themselves that the rest of us don't necessarily share.
No, but I'm not a rapist. I'm not a sexual assaulter. I'm not an angry person anymore like I was when I was younger. I don't mistreat women like I did when I was younger or view them the same way I did when I was younger.
You definitely, I think from the outside, you definitely had that kind of women are conquests.
100%. I'm being very honest in saying that. And I'm not saying that with pride. It's not something I'm proud of at all. But a big part of why I'm not like that now was growing up with the dad I had, someone who had very strong beliefs in respect, how you behave. No, thank you, Rippers.
That is the most heartfelt we'll ever get on this podcast.
But
now let's slag off the Queen.
Having a dad that had strong beliefs in how you treated not just women but
everyone.
People in general.
People are people. That's my view. Certainly, people are people.
And he drummed that in, and he embodied it himself. So he set an example. A lot of people don't have that. I think that's a major part of it. I think I was lucky to be part of a group of friends that was quite a humbling experience more often than not in terms of what could be brought up and.
I mean, I've said it before. One of my favourite things about our little group, particularly the guys, was that there was no alpha bullshit.
No,
and we've said it before. Dave, who is someone we both love very much, and is a very great friend.
Yeah.
When he first came in, he had that alpha thing, not because he was an alpha, but because that's what the world taught him was needed. That's what socially he was like. You've got to go and assert some kind of.
Yeah.
And he came in, and we just didn't have it.
No.
And it wasn't very long before that facade dropped, and we got to know Dave. And
it was an amazing bloke.
But I do remember that, and I do just remember being really proud that we created this. We fostered this environment that didn't allow for that.
And again, I don't think a lot of people have that.
No, definitely not. Definitely not.
And I also don't think people in general want to be self-aware enough to change those aspects of themselves. In terms of what we do for young men moving forward.
Oh, you and I are not going to come up with the answer here.
No, we're not.
Sitting across the dining room table, are we?
And I don't think it is just one answer, because not all young men need the same thing. There will be young men that were more like myself that needed a different sort of nurturing to a more
direct approach.
Yeah. And I think that needs to be set with perhaps more men in the education system, particularly at primary school level. That's been an issue for a long time.
It's such a weird thing that there are so
right men,
few men
yeah.
in early childcare.
And it's for nothing else other than stigma in terms of...
it's a woman's job. Child rearing is a woman's job.
Well,
right?
not just that, but also in terms of how men that work at that level are viewed as...
lesser, feminine.
Well, not even that, but they get the stigma of, is he a nonce? Do you know, that's a genuine thing that they're looked at like, oh, he works with children, does he? You know.
When it should be looked
which
at,
is ridiculous.
There's a caring man who
wants to work with children and
who knows the importance of education and knows the importance of childcare.
But I think we still live in a society where a lot of masculine traits, rightly and wrongly,
I also think there's a kind of
demonised at times.
On the childcare thing, I also think there's a kind of negative effect on women, where I still think a lot of women, whether they know it consciously but subconsciously, kind of absorb the fact that there's very limited choices for you. So
it's a weird one, though.
You're not going to make it. Forget like business, accounting, numbers, all that kind of, engineering. Forget all that. That's not for you. You're a homemaker.
Yeah.
You do those things. You do the softer things. You can do a bit of HR, or you can do a bit of... I do think there's also that...
Oh, 100%.
Sort of negative stigma carried on.
It's it's difficult, though. And I know I've got a mixed opinion about him in general, but one thing I've heard him talk about previously was Jordan Peterson.
Oh, that knob, yeah.
Yeah. But he is an academic who's good at his job. He may have...
ridiculous views.
Yes. And ones we personally disagree with, but it doesn't mean everything he has to say is worthy of disagreement just because he's made stupid statements.
I know, but I feel like there are enough people in his profession, in his area of expertise, that I can ignore him completely and I don't lose anything.
That's fair. That's your point of view. I've listened to a lot of his stuff over the years.
That's just like your opinion,
man. But like, there's been studies, not his
fucking
own studies,
mental breakdown.
Yeah.
I didn't like him before that, to be honest. In the bits I saw,
you didn't know of him before that.
No, but when you told me about him, because that was before, admittedly not long before, but before he started having this real fucking breakdown, and I looked up a few things, and I was like, I mean, a lot of the stuff I didn't agree with, but even the stuff where I was like indifferent to it, there was just something about him that just felt there wasn't to be trusted.
That's fair enough.
You know what I mean? There's one of them people where I was
vibe.
like, there's something about this guy that I's not.
It's difficult though.
Right.
If you felt that after everything that's come out, it's sometimes easier looking back to be like, oh.
No, definitely. But I remember feeling it at the time, and I remember kind of, because I sort of was like, oh, who's this guy? And I watched a couple of things. I was like, oh, really? You watched this guy? And then obviously he had his like fucking breakdown, and I was like very quick to almost be like, fucking knew it. Told you the guy was fucking weird and batshit and wrong, but I didn't.
No, to be honest though, I don't. As I said, I just don't think you can necessarily discount his he has expertise. He's a clinical psychologist for a long time. There's a lot of stuff he's very knowledgeable on.
But I don't feel like he has an area of... I don't feel like he has any knowledge that isn't also possessed by other people.
Oh, that's not what I've said, though.
No. But I'm saying, therefore, I can dismiss him completely, and I've still got my knowledge from other people.
Fair enough. But this study wasn't necessarily his study that I was going to talk about. It was one that he talked about in an interview that they did in Scandinavia. I think it was particularly Sweden, if I recall. And they made extreme efforts, like never made before efforts, just to see what happened more than anything. To if they made it more advantageous for genders to go out into different fields than they usually would, so encourage women to go into engineering.
And they still pick their own ones.
Yeah.
But I think that's, like I said, I think it's really hard to do it because you're getting, whether you know it or not, you're getting like all the influences from the generations before you, even if you don't
I think that's
know
definitely
it
a part
kind of thing.
of it.
Do you know what I mean?
I think it's definitely a part of it. But they don't actually necessarily know what, like they didn't, the study gave us that information.
Because I remember that study. I've seen it separate to Jordan Peterson. I've seen that study. I'm aware of. I've read
necessarily
all the findings.
Like a conclusion as to what a concrete reason was as to why they did that.
No, but they weren't looking for a why. They were
they were looking to see what happened.
They were just looking for an if.
No,
yeah,
absolutely.
What?
So yeah, no, I don't necessarily know what the answer, and I don't even remember what got us onto that.
No, nor do I. I think we were slagging off the Queen or something.
No, you were slagging off the Queen. Any chance?
No, not any chance. Can I just say, right? I like most queens. I think they're lovely people.
Yeah,
I've got nothing against them.
Are you allowed to call them that now?
Yeah, well, if they're queens, like I'm talking about people who identify as queens.
Are we talking drag queens, or is that
them? Yeah, well, they're included in that. I was just going to say, you know,
I'm really slow on the uptake with these things sometimes. I didn't know if Queen was a new.
I'll stand and support you. You know, at your story times.
Yeah,
I've got no problems with that. I can't this week though because I've actually got a lot on.
Yeah,
and next week I'm washing my hair, but I will. I'll do it. I'll be there. I'll be out there in the real world by your side.
Yeah,
you know, believe me. And you know what? The week after that's not very good for me either.
Yeah.
But I will.
We'll be there eventually.
I'll do it.
Yeah,
you believe me.
Yeah.
I stand by you, queens.
Yeah. But no, just to clarify, I actually messaged Jake privately when I saw something Jordan Peterson said that really pissed me off. And you just can't defend stuff like that.
No, you can't.
You can't. And it's a real shame because I think it is down to having a mental breakdown. I think he has just completely broken down, and which also I don't find surprising given the sort of arc of his story.
Which one of us do you think is going to
up.
have the first public mental breakdown?
What if we went famous?
Yeah.
You.
Really?
Yeah.
I feel like
I think you'd be like, do you know what? I can't. No.
Well, I feel like my sort of ramblings and insults would be quite incoherent from whatever breakdown I was having. I don't think you'd be able to tell.
I think out the
Whereas
two
with
of
you,
us,
I think there'd be a clear difference between pre-breakdown and post-breakdown. But with me, I feel like it would all just kind of look very much, much of a muchness.
I don't know. I feel like you would be the one far more likely to slip up with something you said, get a lot of backlash, and then just have a complete breakdown.
Like in, but obviously you didn't have a breakdown, but have you seen Glass Onion?
I haven't actually. It's on my
list. There's no spoilers, but there's a bit where they're like, the one who's an actress can't have her phone on her. And they were like, they're worried that I'll tweet like an offensive word against her. I didn't even know it was offensive. I just thought it was like a generic term that meant cheap. And the woman was like, Jewy. You thought Jewy just meant cheap?
Yeah, I could see you doing something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, I don't know a lot of young people words, but I do every now and then try and use them. So I could see it happening.
Yeah. Do you know what, though? That makes me think about something, how old I've started to feel recently. And I sort of blame my mum for it a little bit. Because
she gave birth to you a long time ago.
Partly. But at work, I've started work. There's a girl that's come onto my department that is 17.
Oh, mate, working with young people, there's nothing more upsetting.
Well, I found it fascinating at first. I didn't even come at it. I found it fascinating the difference, what growing up for her was like in terms of what was around and about, and compared to ours, like trying to explain to her.
It's the pop culture thing that makes me feel old with them.
But what got me, like we talked about all sorts of stuff, from telling her what a cassette tape was to the fact our internet used to make noise and that my first television had dials on it and all that sort of thing. And then I got home and I was talking to my mum about it, and she went, well, you are old enough to be her dad. And I just went, fuck. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'd never...
Yeah, almost. I mean, not quite,
yeah,
but
my
sister
sister immediately was like, yeah, but he would have been like 14, 15, so... But technically...
But yeah, it's pop culture that gets me. Like I said, I was with one of the Saturday kids, and this, the song came on, Inhaler.
What's Inhaler?
It's a band, and I just sort of went, oh, do you know the singer of this, the lead singer of this is Bono's son? And he just looked at me blankly and was like, I was like, Bono. I was like, bro.
Everyone knows Bono.
I would understand. Like I said to him, I would understand if I said The Edge, and you were like, I don't know who that is. And I go, oh, he's the guitarist. He's the guitarist in U2.
Right. Okay.
And I'd be like, I can understand, but Bono.
Yeah.
Every everyone
would have heard
knows
the name
Bono. And then I
Bono.
was like, and then I was like, oh, what about like going through? It's like Green Day. I was like, no, and I was like, no, come on now, we've got to draw the line somewhere here. You don't know Green Day.
Yeah.
This is upsetting. And the girls sometimes like the
But
two
then
girls.
if you think about it, their like main smash album was
2001, like it was
in the middle of
Idiot,
us.
really, wasn't it?
Yeah. It was in the middle of
And-
our teenage childhood years.
And like sometimes they'll, be something like, oh, fucking tune or whatever. They're like, yeah, I like this one. And then they'll sort of mention like, there's a few songs I like that came out a few years before I was born. I was like, no, there's no need to do that, was there? There's no need to there's no need to remind me
a song from your teenage
that these
years
songs that were
is
in my teenage years occurred
before
before
their
you were
birth.
even on the planet,
Yeah,
before you
before
were
they
even
were
a fucking
scratching their
sperm.
dad's
Like
balls.
you were absolutely nothing in existence.
Yeah.
And it's stuff like that. And like one of them was like, because I was talking about, do you remember Rugrats Go to Paris?
Yes.
And
I
they had the
love
orange-
that film.
The orange VHS. I don't know if you ever had that. We were kind of, obviously being rich and posh, we had the fancy life.
I definitely
But
didn't
the
have
orange
that.
VHS, and I was like, that was cool. I
No,
was
do
like,
you know what I had, Jay? And this definitely says the difference between our upbringings. I had a
Betamax.
pirated copy of it, like recorded.
yeah.
using
I
the
bought off a
VHS.
bloke in the car park.
No, we recorded it ourselves off the Disney
I
Channel.
love those.
Or
I've got
Nickelodeon or
loads of
whatever it
them.
would have been.
Loads of them. But yeah, I had the orange VHS tape. It was
No, I
like,
don't
it was
remember.
dope as shit, and it was cool. I was like, when they did a special release,
Yeah.
because Shrek did one where it was green. I never
Oh,
had
did
that.
they?
I had the normal black one,
Right.
but I do remember
We
it.
did have that epic Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah, I've still got
VHS.
that.
Yeah, of
I've still
course.
got that.
Absolutely.
But and they were one of them just turned around and went, "I've never watched a VHS," and I was like, "Oh my god, this is just
no,
so."
but that's not shocking,
why
though,
would
is
they?
it? Yeah.
Why would they? They've grown up with streaming.
I don't-
DVDs are probably fucking old to them.
Well, I don't remember the last time I used a DVD player.
I do. I watched a film a couple of weeks ago on DVD.
No, everything's streamed now. I like the thought of having to get up and put a DVD in. I'd be like, "Where's the DVD player remote?" I wouldn't even know where to begin. Do you know what I mean?
Honestly, like the pop culture thing just upsets me so much.
Yeah,
when
I
they
mean,
start talking about
like
bands and acts
I
and
said
stuff,
to her
it's
like,
oh.
"You don't know about the millennium," and she was like, "How?" Yeah, she's like, "That's so." She was like, "I was
That was
obsessed
cool
with
or
that
something,
growing
yeah.
up." Because she was
Y2K.
like,
Remember the
well, no,
fear
she
over
didn't know
Y2K?
any of- she
But do
didn't know
you
any of
remember the
that.
fear over Y2K?
Do you know what she took over? Do you know what she
in
took
certain
from it?
groups? Go on.
She was like, "You've lived through 2 centuries." I was like, well, "I'm not 200
I find that
years
quite
old."
cool though. I'd like to make 3.
Well, no,
I'd like to
she
live
did
to-
say like, "That's amazing. You've like."
I'd like to live to 100 and, 108, 109 and
But
make
like,
it through 3.
I said to her like, everyone thought the world was going to end, and she was like, "What do you mean?" I was like, "Well, it was
Just
all to
this
do
fear
with the
that
Mayan
planes were going to
calendar."
crash out of the sky
And-
when the thing ticked
yeah.
over to 000. I was like,
Yeah.
I loved it. It was such a good. I even
Do you
then, I
remember where
loved
you were when the turn of the millennium?
No. Do you?
Yeah, I was underneath this dining table,
Just in
pushed
case.
up the wall.
Just in case.
No. We were having a big family party. I remember it quite vividly, and I was always the sort of kid that
Did Daddy drink? Did Daddy take off his belt?
Wow,
Were you hiding?
wow, he's dead, bro. Behave yourself. No, the table was pushed up. We were having a big
Just going to
family
play the
dinner.
dead dad card all the time, aren't you?
Well, you start taking the piss out of my dead dad, yeah.
Oh, right, okay. So I can't take the piss out of the Queen. I can't take the piss out of your dad. Who's dead that I can insult?
Literally anyone else. Well, you can take the piss out of the Queen.
It's just those two.
You can take the piss out of
It's
the
just
Queen.
where you weren't that happy
Just
about
my
it earlier.
dad.
That's all I'm saying.
I was fine with it earlier. I just played God Save the Queen
There's
afterwards.
a couple of comments that I felt were a little unsavoury.
No, you can say whatever you like about the Queen. You might not get knighted, but, I doubt you're very worried about that.
I feel like I'm probably quite low down on the list.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I fell asleep under this dining room table we're currently podcasting
History.
on. And I remember waking up to everyone counting down.
Fair enough. I mean, what did you do for New Year's this year? Do you remember?
Had an early night with Leanne.
Yeah, me too.
We went to bed at
It was
like
weird.
10:30.
It was weird that you never saw me in the room.
Well, normally you're in the cupboard, aren't you? That's why we normally tell you to
I
go.
know. I was on the other side of the bed.
Really?
Sneaky, sneaky.
Oh, wow.
Sneaky, sneaky.
Who was sleeping on that side of the bed, Jake?
Well, I thought it was Leanne, but there were a couple of telltale signs that did make me wonder.
The thing is, it's difficult. It's funny that
I
you find
tell
it
you,
difficult to tell
who-
the difference
whoever I was
between me
next
and
to,
a woman that
or
was
whoever I
half
was
the
next
size
to,
of me.
Turned over at one point, and I thought, I recognise that bum hole.
Yeah,
I've
yeah.
seen that before in a picture,
Yeah.
and I just,
I mean, for the listeners out there, what you really want to know is, yes, I do always sleep naked.
Do you actually sleep naked though?
No.
Pants?
Yeah.
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 Just in
pants.
your pants. Yeah, me
Yeah.
too.
If it's really cold, I might put a shirt and some
Me too.
shorts
Again,
on,
it's weird that
maybe.
I sleep in your pants. Some people say that, but
Well, I'll just
they're
give you my
roomy.
old ones.
For me, they're roomy.
Yeah. There's room to breathe.
There is for me.
Mm.
You know, and we know I
Especially
need the
since you've lost
accommodation.
weight.
We know I need the accommodation.
Yeah,
We've
for
spoken
your
about
massive
that.
girth and length.
Just for the huge... I sort of wrap it around myself and then hold it in place with your
Yeah,
pants.
use it as a flotation device, I've heard.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes. It's a
Do you
bit
just
weird when I
blow on
do...
the end?
It's a bit weird when I do the swimming lessons and I'm like, grab onto this, kids.
Oh, dear. Yeah.
Just to
Do
clear,
you remember
just
what
to
I said
clarify,
earlier
right?
about one of us would
Just
slip?
to
Which one of us would
clarify,
slip up?
No children have ever touched my penis.
The problem is, you keep making jokes about it.
I have made like a number of jokes. But
Not
we're
just
going
in
back
this
over the whole
episode.
course of
Yeah.
the podcast. We go back over like what 3
If we
years,
ever make
4
it
years
big,
of podcasting.
I will ask one of our viewers or all of them to just sift through all of the episodes and find
Count
any.
how many times I've made.
Yeah, but like make a montage of it.
Be easy to just count the times I've touched kids, which is 0 for the record. 0. Okay.
Jesus. Right, I don't know what to. You keep doing this to me today.
I'm
you keep
so
saying
sorry.
stuff that just
I'm
makes
so
me.
sorry.
I don't know.
The only other thing that I had to say was like, did you see the ridiculousness of the Logan Paul and KSI drink Prime?
What about it?
That it was supposedly in such high demand that there were a few corner shops selling it for like upwards of £100 a can.
Yeah, it's crazy. But the thing is, if you get kids interested into something that much, then it happens, doesn't it?
We should merchandise something towards kids. And I see now, like, we're in some dangerous territory
Do you
now.
remember a couple
now
of
I am
seasons ago there was
advertising.
this growing narrative that I was a misogynist and
Yes.
that I hated women?
Yeah, I remember it because it was fueled by me.
Yeah.
I remember it.
And so is this. I'm
I'm
not doing anything.
The thing is, yeah, it is dangerous to talk about, to
You
joke
brought
about
up the
touching
subject
kids
and then brought
say,
it to touching.
and then 30 seconds later say, in all seriousness, we should target children.
Jake in every marketing meeting. Let's target
get the
children.
kids. Let's get the kids, guys.
You're the Pied Piper of CrossingSwords, aren't you?
I do see how it sounds.
Was the Pied Piper the one that used to go after kids?
Yeah, he lured,
Or was it
he lured the rats. But
No,
he
it's
also lured the kids.
Rumpelstiltskin I'm thinking of.
I don't know what Rumpelstiltskin did. Didn't he do the thing with the
With
wheel
the
of
spinny
wool?
wheel, yeah. But I feel like
Pied Piper, definitely. He
there was kids involved.
he
with Pied
was paid
Piper.
to take the rats away,
Right.
but the
Oh, so
town
he
didn't.
took the kids away, didn't they?
But the town didn't pay him.
Yeah.
They went, "Fuck you, you've done the job." So he came back and took the kids.
Are you telling me that story doesn't accurately describe how you would have behaved?
I'm not saying it doesn't. We've established that I'm What we haven't established that I'm a paedophile, but we have established that I'm petty. But I would not resort to paedophilia out of pettiness.
I hope not.
Just to be very clear.
I'm going to make something quite clear, bro. Don't resort to paedophilia in any way.
Can you imagine if we
for any
get
reason.
to a certain level of notoriety
And people
and
go,
we're like, we need some legal representation, and all of them were like, I've heard your stuff, that's too much work.
we can't do
I
it.
can't represent
You
that.
admit to too much.
They're like, this guy pointing at me, being
The
like,
thing is,
nightmare.
You're setting yourself
Quagmire.
up for a situation where you haven't actually touched children. Let's make that clear. But that you've talked about it so much that someone, if we have
It's
enough
just
money,
assumed.
is just going to go, yeah, he did. And then we're like, fucking silence him, Jake.
But then, we can clip that
That
soundbite.
sounded really bad.
We can clip that soundbite where I say, I haven't touched. This is like that fucking. Do you know in Always Sunny in Philadelphia when he's like
The implication.
when Danny DeVito is holding the little beauty pageant for
Mm.
kids, and they're like, oh, the last guy we had to get rid of him because he was like touching the kids or whatever, and he was like, oh shit, I need to make sure the guys know I'm not touching kids. So he's like, help me write a song. Do not diddle kids. Kiddling dids is bad. And they look at him and they go, if there's one way to make sure that they think you're diddling their kids, it's to write a song where you say, I'm not diddling your kids. I feel like that is this. I feel like I've said no too much.
I feel like you've talked about touching kids too much.
I had to clarify the clarification of the
problem
clarification.
Is, you've talked about it so much. I don't know if people are going to get the message. I think people are going to come out of this episode saying, I can't let Jake go anywhere near my children.
And I wouldn't want to. I've got no interest in your... Like, just to be clear, I mean, I love kids. Big kid lover. For any women out there who want to get on the dating thing,
You're
Love kids.
actively seeking
I actually don't mind. I actually quite
single
like it.
mothers.
Like some kids are actually just good fun.
Yeah. They
Not,
are.
you know. You got anything else? You must have some stuff. Look at all those notes.
I'm just making a note of not to let you meet my nephews. Would you take 10 grand?
Yes.
But
Done. Wrapped
to
up.
touch
Here we go.
I couldn't even say it. I don't even know if the audio listeners would have heard that. That wasn't the actual question. It just felt right.
God, would I take 10 grand?
When someone random in the world dies.
Oh, yes. People randomly die all the time. What difference does it make to me? Somewhere right now.
How many times
someone's
would you
dying.
do it?
I was
Every time.
I was going to do the Bono thing.
I loved that
The joke.
growing
That's
up.
such a good joke, though. That's such a good
you
joke.
got to tell the joke then
Oh,
for the audio
it's
listeners.
it's Bono on stage at a concert.
At
And he
Live
sort of
Aid.
goes, right, we go quiet. And he says, listen, he says, you know,
was
an
in-
African children is dying every like 30 seconds. Every time I click my fingers,
an African child
dies. And he does it again. And one bloke in the crowd goes, well, stop fucking clicking your fingers then, you selfish cunt. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, you know,
Yeah.
the implication being that, I'm going to explain this joke. The implication being that every time Bono clicks his fingers,
Someone was
that's the
killing a
cause of
child.
death. Someone off stage, I love that idea. Off stage,
So
was
you
like,
started off
clicked it
about
again.
touching kids and now it's killing kids.
Yes, but very specifically, no, I'm not killing. Bono's killing kids. I'm not killing kids.
All your stories seem to involve children.
Go on, 10 grand. Somebody, yeah, somebody. Would you?
How many times would you
No,
do
hang
it?
on. Would you?
No.
How many times would I do it? Like a lot. Like someone ran. Wait, what? Because what the? You know, you're. Obviously, there's a kind of implication here that it's someone just walking down the street, boop, drops dead, right?
Well, they would.
No, but what if it's just someone on a ventilator in a hospital who's on their way out
You
anyway?
can't make that decision.
No, I can't.
It's
No, I don't know.
random.
But in
Could
my
be your
head,
mum.
in my head, I can settle it as being.
It could be your mum. What if your mum dropped dead the second the 10 grand hit your
Well, I'd be
hand?
getting more than 10 grand if my mum dies. She's very rich. We've established that.
The 10 grand just
So
covers the funeral.
The payoff, you know, financially is worth it. I just want to clarify because my mum sometimes listen. I love you, mum. Please don't die.
No, but that's a risk you're taking by taking the money.
Yeah, fuck it. I don't know who dies. I can clear it in my head. I can justify it as it's someone that was about to die anyway. Would you? So you'd never take it?
No.
Man, we're going to live very different lifestyles when I'm like...
I just don't think I could get past that because I don't know who it is. They could be someone doing, like, could be a surgeon. Do you know what I mean? Someone who does really
He's in the
good
right place.
stuff. He drops dead.
They're well suited to look after dead people.
Wow. So, but you just do it an unlimited amount of times, would you?
No, not
what amount of
unlimited.
money would you stop at? Because let's work out how
Enough
much.
to pay off a house.
So, what sort of house do you want to live in, Jake?
I'm
Just
going to
put
say,
a
let's call it
value on
$500,000.
So, how many
50
times is
times.
that? You'd kill 50 people.
No, it wouldn't be 50 times. It'd be 500 times.
500 people.
No, it'd be 50.
to-
It'd be 50 times. 50 times, I'd kill 50 people. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Just to buy a house?
50 people that were going to die anyway, as far as
You
I'm
don't
concerned.
know that,
No,
though.
but you don't know that it's not.
What if I specify that it's not people that were already dying?
Well, then I'd never do it.
Interesting. That's all you need.
Yeah, well, if
Is
I
the
know that it's not,
possibility that it could be someone who's
it's the
already
unknown.
died.
I can square it in my mind. I can be like, yeah, someone that was dying anyway.
If you had to have sex with a cartoon character, who would it be?
It would have been so much funnier if I could have just gone bang without thinking about it, wouldn't it?
Do you know what did you say? Something like Dora the Explorer.
That monkey looking fine, no? That monkey looking fine.
Wow.
No, that's how Ebola started. We must stop that. No, not Ebola, AIDS supposedly, wasn't it?
Also, just feels
Just
risky
a
to
rumour.
say it in general.
Have you got one? You would?
The first one that came to mind when I saw the question was Jessica Rabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then I landed on Mrs. Incredible.
Yeah, the Elastigirl.
Elastigirl. Mm.
Yeah, I'd tap that.
Yeah. Well, but gone. The UK.
Come on, be a professional now. Come
Oh,
on. Come on.
The UK is building its own Rushmore, Mount Rushmore.
Yep.
Who are your 4 figures?
Do they have to be political or can they be
Be anyone you...
Attenborough?
Oh,
Straight on there.
good shout.
No fucking around.
Good shout.
Attenborough is on there. There's a few that I really like, but I'll admit them for personal.
Yeah.
Well, I love Miriam Margolyes, but I wouldn't have her on the on Mount
Okay, I was going to
Rushmore.
say that's high praise.
Attenborough, much loved. Who would I go for? Tough one.
Boris
It's
Johnson.
a tough one. I think you and I both know the answer to that. See, before the Qatar thing, Beckham. Since the Qatar thing, not so much.
It's funny that. Yeah.
Not so much. Joe Lycett, I'd happily have him on the.
Oh,
I'd
that's
have him
not
on-
a
I'd have
bad
him on the Rushmore.
shout. That is not a bad shout. He's a good egg.
Who would I have on? Have you got a 4?
Freddie Mercury came to mind.
Or we could just have 4 out of the 5 Spice Girls. Mug one of them off.
We know who we're
Freddie's
mugging
good.
off, don't we?
Freddie's good. It's the Qatar thing by association, by
Oh,
proxy.
no, she seems like the knobbish. She's the one who never wanted to come back. Do you know what I mean?
I don't mind her. She's not the one I'd have married,
No.
but she's all right.
You'd have married Baby, wouldn't you?
No, see again, we're just judging women.
So we got a lot about Rushmore so far. We've got David Attenborough, Joe Lycett,
And Mercury,
Freddie Mercury. We
Big
need
Fred.
one more.
Who would we have?
What about the Dench? We haven't got any women on
I
there.
wouldn't mind it. I wouldn't mind. Yeah, they're all white as well. If we're being, let's be fair.
Why does it always have to be about race with you?
I don't have to be. I just chose to make it on this particular occasion. Yeah, I'd have Judi Dench.
Right, so we've gone
Dame
for
Judi.
Attenborough, Judi Dench, Joe Lycett.
Do you know who I might have instead of Joe Lycett? Just because I think it would.
He's not quite big enough, is he?
It would look brilliantly awkward. Louis Theroux.
I don't know if Louis deserves to be up there. I like Louis, don't get me wrong.
No, you're not sure he should be there.
Is he, would you call him like a cult? I guess he sort of is, isn't he?
I think he's a national treasure.
Yeah. I really like his interviewing style, I have to say. I love how awkward
Yeah.
he is.
It brings people. It very cleverly brings people out of themselves because they feel like.
Well, he plays himself in
they
this
feel like they've got the
diminishing
upper
way.
because they feel like they've got the upper hand on
Yeah,
him.
and I've heard other people say they think that's more calculated and deceitful than it lets on, and I just think that's who he is. I
think that's who he is, and I think it works for him. So why would he change it? He gets great results.
I think if we're going for diversity, we can't really choose Louis Theroux.
Okay, I'll tell you who's an early contender who I really am a fan of. I really like Stormzy. Not just for what he likes for the music, but he has progressed musically, has evolved musically, and I always love people that do that.
Seeing him,
but what he does outside of it, I'm such a fan of. He
I've
always
never
comes
seen
across
an
so
interview
cool,
with him I don't
chill,
like. Yeah,
funny, and he does a lot for community work around the country, particularly
I'm in for that.
like where we grew up.
Stormzy, absolutely. So we've gone for Stormzy, the Dench, Attenborough, and Mercury. I think that's pretty decent.
On game.
Right.
That's a good lineup.
Right, now I've pulled myself back together. It might be a good time to say our goodbyes.
Time to say goodbye. I don't know if that's the next line.
No,
believe it or not, I don't speak Latin.
In our family, we always
shot.
used to say it was Punani Pastrami. Da, 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 da.
What, you're a toilet attendant family?
I don't know why that came out.
No Armani, no Punani.
No pastrami, no Punani.
No pastrami, no Punani. Do you know what, though? That's a rule that served me well. Women like to be fed.
Yeah.
They like to be fed sausage.
You've walked a very dangerous line this podcast, Jack.
I think I've obliterated the line in my own opinion.
But if you want the people to complain to us about how you've obliterated the line, Jake, where should they do that?
Small Dick Energy and GetAlive.com. It's an alternative account I have. Weird. Do you know what? Some bloke was emailing me a picture of his fucking car the other day on that.
What?
Yeah, on that email account.
What, on our CrossingSwords one?
No, on the Small Dick Get a Life.
I thought you said some bloke was sending us a picture of his
it's
car.
It's an Andrew Tate joke. It's a Greta Thunberg, Andrew Tate joke.
Mate, I'm far too gone for that now.
So it was sophisticated and witty, but we won't dwell on it. We'll just I think one day I'm going to make that Rushmore.
But why not? Keep up the good work is all I can say.
I think the only way I'd make Rushmore is if they decided to make it like one of those commemorative walls
what
where
would
everyone
you
gets a
have
plaque.
to do between now and the day you die to be worthy of being on the British Rushmore?
Like, well, it's a bit too
Stop
late now.
touching
She's
children?
dead, but I know because that implies that I do. But I would have had to have like saved the Queen's life. I'd have to have died saving the Queen.
Or the King. It's a bit late now.
Yeah, that's why I said the chance has gone.
No, but you don't think there's anything else you could do?
Charlie's not as liked as Liz.
Fair enough.
You know, let's throw that out there. Monarchy is on its way downhill.
What if you shot
The
Boris
Queen?
Johnson?
The Queen. I'm not going to dwell on this all night, but the Queen has never once told someone that she wants to be a tampon because she wants to be inside them.
Fair enough.
You know what? She had that class about her.
Yeah.
That Charles just doesn't.
Yeah, I get that.
We're going to get shut down, aren't we?
Yeah,
the Secret Service going to come and get us.
And for those who want to shut us down, you can do so by going to our Twitter page at Swords Crossing, Facebook at Crossing Swords, on Instagram it's CrossingSwords_podcast, and you can even email us, Jake, and you can do that at CrossingSwords19@gmail.com.
I do. I send you frequent dick pics.
Always, normally just to WhatsApp. Or
I just ask
Signal.
you: is this colour normal?
Yeah,
that's what I kind of.
And I always give you the same answer.
And I've brought it full circle. We're back to the beginning.
Yeah, and Jake's alopecia.
That's what I bring. That's what I bring. I do shave. If we're being really honest about my genital situation.
Yeah,
as we were at the start.
It's not what I'm concerned about.
I have to shave now. It's too white. The hairs.
Really?
I don't like it. Yeah.
Fair enough.
Does
it not get itchy?
No, not really.
Oh, fair enough.
You sort of adjust.
Yeah.
But I've forgotten what I was saying. Well, you can watch us on
just
YouTube.
say goodbye, mate.
You can follow us on YouTube.
Yeah,
like
you
and
can
subscribe.
follow us on YouTube.
Wherever you listen to this podcast, please like and subscribe. Leave a message, like a review.
Please do.
Not just a message. Don't just be like, hi Jill, how you doing?
Be a legend. Just the odd share here and there goes a long way. Let's get on it. And
Share
also
it,
let us know
it.
if you liked. We did a clip video or like a teaser trailer for the episode last week. We're going to hopefully continue to do those. And hopefully it'll improve as well. So let us know what you think.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, and we'll see you soon.
And just to clarify before we go, right? Okay, just to clarify.
Tread carefully here, Jake.
I think personally, it's too late now. But you should have cut me off mid-sentence. That'd be much funnier. But just clarify, I don't and have never touched children.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.